Good morning, everyone. My name is Humphrey Ochige, and I will be the one to open this topic. We are now at Topic 6, Performance Evaluation Using Variances from Standard Cost. Now, standard costing often builds what we have learned in budgeting, especially flexible budgets. Before we tackle what standard costing can do for us, let me present to you our flow of topics for today. So the first on our list is Introduction to Standard Costing and Budgetary Performance Evaluation by Ms. Katrina Tatad. Second will be Direct Materials and Labor Variances by Ms. Janice Losada. Third will be Factory Overhead Variances by Mr. Albert Dumaraos. Recording and Reporting Variances from Standards, Non-Financial Performance Measures by Ms. Elaine Galion, and Problem-Solving Discussion by yours truly. So without further ado, let us start with our first reporter.
Good morning, everyone. Our group will be reporting about performance evaluation using variances from standard costs. By the way, I'm Katrina Tatat. I will be the first reporter. Standards. Standards are performance goals. Manufacturing companies normally use standard costs for direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead. What is standard cost? It is an accounting system that uses standards for product costs. Standard cost system enable management to determine the following: how much product should cost, which is a standard cost, how much it does cost, which is the actual cost. The difference between standard cost and actual cost is called exceptions or cost variances. How to set up standards. Standard setting process normally requires the joint efforts of accountants, engineer, and the management personnel. The accountant converts the result of judgments and process studies into values, while the engineer, with the help of the management personnel, identify the materials, labor, and machine requirements needed to produce the product. Type of standards. There are two types of standards: ideal standards or the theoretical standards. Second is the currently attainable standards or normal standards. In the ideal standards are standards that can be achieved only under perfect operating conditions, meaning there are no idle time, no machine breakdowns, and no material spoilage. It may have a negative impact on performance because they may be viewed by employees as unrealistic. In the currently attainable standards or normal standards are standards that can be attained with reasonable effort, meaning it allows for normal production difficulties and mistakes. Employees may focus more on costs and are more likely to put forth their best efforts. Reviewing and revising standards. Standard costs should be periodically reviewed to ensure that they reflect current operating conditions, such as changes in the prices, product designs, labor rates, or manufacturing methods. But standards should not be revised just because they differ from the actual cost. Criticism of standard costs regarding performance evaluation. First, standards limit operating improvements by discouraging improvement beyond the standard because employees are afraid that this will affect their performance. Second, standards are too difficult to maintain in dynamic manufacturing environment, resulting in stale standards. This is because there are too many variables to factor in the manufacturing setup. Third, standards can cause employees to lose sight of the larger objectives of the organization by focusing only on efficiency improvement. And last, standards can cause employees to unduly focus on their own operations to the possible harm of other operations that rely on them. Regardless of these criticisms, standards are used widely, and standard costs are only one part of the performance evaluation system used by most manufacturing companies. Budgetary performance evaluation is a control function. This compares the actual performance against the budget. The standards for direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead are separated into the following two components, which is the standard price and standard quantity. The standard cost per unit for direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead is computed by standard cost per unit is equivalent to standard price times standard quantity. Let's illustrate Western Rider's standard cost per unit for its XL jeans. The manufacturing costs are direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead. In the direct materials, the standard price is $5 per square yard, and the standard quantity per pair means it needs 1.5 square yards to produce one pair of jeans. So by multiplying $5 to the 1.5, we have the standard cost per pair of XL jeans of $7.5 for the direct materials. On direct labor, the standard price is $9 per hour, while the standard quantity per pair is 0.80 hours per pair. So we multiply 0.8 hours to $9, which we have a standard cost per pair of XL jeans of 7.2. And on the factory overhead, we have a standard price of $6 per hour, and the standard quantity per pair is 0.8 hour per pair. Then we multiply the 0.8 hour to $6. So we have a standard cost per pair of XL jeans of $4.8. Then we total it, we have the standard cost per pair, which is $19.5. Cost variances. It is a difference between actual and standard costs. A favorable cost variance is where actual cost is lesser than standard cost at actual volumes, while the unfavorable cost variance is where actual cost is greater than standard cost at actual volumes. The report that summarizes actual cost, standard cost, and the difference for the unit produced is called Budget Performance Report. To illustrate Budget Performance Report of Western Rider Incorporated for the month ended June 30, 2016, we have an actual cost of direct material, which is $40,150. Direct labor is $38,500, and the factory overhead, which is $22,400. And we have a total actual manufacturing cost of $101,050. On the standard cost at the 5,000 pairs of XL jeans, we multiply 5,000 pairs with the standard cost per pair of XL jeans, which we computed on the previous illustration. So for the direct materials, we have 5,000 pairs of jeans multiplied by $7.5, which we have $37,500. On direct labor, 5,000 pairs of jeans and multiply with $7.2, we have $36,000. On factory overhead, 5,000 pairs of XL jeans, we multiply to $4.8, which we have $24,000. Then the total standard manufacturing cost is $97,500. Then we go to the cost variance. On direct materials, we have $2,650 unfavorable variance. This is because actual cost is higher than the standard cost. On direct labor, we also have an unfavorable variance of 2,500 because the actual cost is also higher than the standard cost. While on the factory overhead, we have a favorable of $1,600. This is because the standard cost is higher than the actual cost. Then the total manufacturing cost variance, which is the total of all variances of direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead, which we have a 3,550 unfavorable variance. What is the manufacturing cost variances? Total manufacturing cost variance is the difference between total standard cost and total actual cost for the units produced, as we illustrated earlier. In manufacturing cost variances, each product cost variance is separated into two additional variants. So total manufacturing cost variance has direct material cost variance, direct labor cost variance, and factory overhead cost variance. In the direct materials cost variance, we have direct materials price variance and direct materials quantity variance. Direct materials cost variance. The total direct material variance is separated into a price variance and quantity variance. So actual direct material cost is equals to actual price multiplied by actual quantity. The standard direct material cost is equals to standard price multiplied by standard quantity. So the direct material cost variance is the total of price difference and quantity difference. Price difference is the difference between actual price and standard price, while the quantity difference is the difference between actual quantity and standard quantity. Direct labor cost variance has direct labor rate variance and direct time variance. On direct labor cost variance, it is the same with direct material variance. It has separated into a rate variance and time variance. So the actual direct labor cost is equals to actual rate multiplied by actual time. Standard direct labor cost is equals to standard rate multiplied by standard time. So the direct labor cost variance is a total of rate difference and time difference. The rate difference is the difference between actual rate and standard rate, while the time difference is the difference of actual time and standard time. On factory overhead cost variance, it has variable factory overhead controllable variance and fixed factory overhead volume variance. This is difference with the direct materials and direct labor cost variance because factory overhead has fixed and variable cost elements. For further details of the manufacturing cost variance, this will be reported by my other group.